Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite films of all time. It is the culmination of all of the characters' journeys in the prequel trilogy, as well as the ultimate payoff that takes the world building created in the trilogy and transitions it into the world building of the original trilogy. It is the definition, in my opinion, of a perfect sequel and a perfect prequel at the same time. But what really makes the movie, and really all of Star Wars, so special is the characters, which is the main reason I collect action figures. They give me a physical memento of my favorite characters that I can pose and display. Anakin and Obi-Wan are my two favorite characters of all time, and Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite movies. So as a collector, I need detailed figures of Obi-Wan and Anakin from that film. In fact, that's the entire reason I even started collecting in the first place. I had rewatched Revenge of the Sith for the first time in years at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, and it revitalized my love for Star Wars, giving me the childish desire to buy toys to play with from the movie. But it wasn't until recently that I finally completed my original goal as a Star Wars collector, which was to have the duo of Obi-Wan and Anakin from Episode 3, owned by me as plastic action figures. I completed this goal with archive re-releases of Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Black Series. I got Obi-Wan much earlier, actually, about 6 months earlier, but he didn't seem complete without his partner and former apprentice. I ordered Anakin Skywalker at the beginning of 2023, and you can probably guess how I felt.
Now I am complete.
My favorite character of all time was in my hands, represented by a figure I long thought I would never own due to its rarity. I set him next to Obi-Wan on the shelf and all was right in the galaxy. Or was it? I can love these characters all I want, but are they good figures? Well, that depends.
Depends on what, Dex?
Well, let's find out. Starting with Obi-Wan. Why? Because Anakin is an impatient jerk sometimes, so he can learn to wait his turn.
How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair.
So, I hear this Obi-Wan figure get a lot of negativity in the community, and I can kind of see why. First and most noticeably, his hair is really blonde. I don't know why they made his hair so light, because in the films it was definitely more of a light brown or dirty blonde color. I think that a shade or two darker on the hair color would really have helped this one. The second problem is that the head is a bit too small. Not the biggest deal, but it's hard to unsee once you've noticed it. And the likeness itself isn't great. But I think it evokes enough of that determined, focused Obi-Wan Kenobi attitude for me to be happy with it. And the overall look of the outfit, I think, is fantastic. It has a nice amount of paint on the tunic to bring out all the details and make it realistic. The belt, buckle, and pouches are all painted. So is his collar up here. His boots are also this nice reddish-brown color that is pretty accurate to the film, but would look a little better if they were a shade darker so they wouldn't stand out so much. So, yeah, overall, I think this figure looks good. Now to talk about the biggest sticking point that a lot of people have with the figure, which is the articulation. And I personally think it's alright. The only problem being, Bandit's a big one, but he can't hold his saber hilt with two hands. But he can do this, so what more can you ask for? Oh, you can ask for him to hold it with two hands? That's fair. But he really is genuinely capable of a lot of cool poses, and I feel like too many people write him off early for having bad articulation before really giving him a shot. And finally, we have his one singular accessory, which is his lightsaber. The hilt is fantastically detailed and extremely accurate, and the blade is removable. But the blade color is a little bit too green, and it's too translucent. It should be bluer and more opaque to draw out that color. But let's move on to Anakin. This figure is actually the most valuable The Black Series figure on the market right now, which is kind of crazy to think about. Nate and Justin over at Out of the Basement did a great video on that topic, which I'd highly recommend checking out. But is this figure worth all that much? Well, if we look at him, starting with the head sculpt, they totally nailed the hairstyle. I mean, it looks pretty much exactly right in that department. But the likeness, it's just not there. No matter what angle I look at this from, it just doesn't look like Hayden Christensen to me at all. Which is unfortunate since the Attack of the Clones version looks so great. But we have a momentous occasion here, folks. This Black Series figure comes with an alternate head, which still doesn't look great. But I think it does look more like Hayden, mostly in the facial expression. He's a bit angrier, his hair is a bit messed up, and his eyes are a Sith yellow. I love that they included this head sculpt so he's able to be changed from Jedi Knight to Sith Lord, and it really helps with recreating scenes from his duel with Obi-Wan at the end of the film. One thing I did notice, though, is that Annie's face is shorter on the dark side head than it is on the light side one, which results in his neck looking oddly long when the dark side head sculpt is in use. Moving down from the head, we have his neck, which is painted skin tone, rather than being sculpted in skin tone colored plastic, which looks a little odd. But moving down from there, we have the outfit, which is very distinctly different from Obi-Wan's and the rest of the Jedi. It's much darker and has this cool leather overlay that I've always thought looks awesome. And they captured it really well here. The leather parts have a really cool texture to them, and they have a very accurate color. But my problem is that the non-leather parts of the outfit look a little bit too plasticky. They did a great job with Obi-Wan of adding paint to the creases and edges to make it look like fabric. That's unfortunately pretty much completely absent from the Anakin figure. But he does have some great paint applications on the bindings of his cybernetic arm, though I seem to remember them being silver in the movie, not bronze, but I might be wrong. Then if we go over to the belt, it looks great. The color looks accurate, all the little metallic details are there and very cleanly applied on my copy, and it seems to have a dark wash over it to make it look more realistic. Then below the belt we have the skirt piece, which is fabric, so it gets out of the way for posing. He has the leather overlay pieces that are vinyl, which help him get out of the way for posability as well, but it also gives them a really cool texture. And then we have the boots, which are a different color from the pants, which is of course a good thing. They are very well sculpted, and I've always liked how it kind of looks like Anakin has wood pieces strapped to the front of his boots. But I think some paint to weather them up would have been really nice, like they did on the Attack of the Clones version. And to differentiate the strap pieces from the rest of the boot would have been really cool to have some paint on there. But yeah, all the elements really come together on this guy to look the part of Revenge of the Sith Anakin for my display. But we do have to talk articulation on this guy as well. I often hear people say that this figure has better articulation than Obi-Wan, but I would actually disagree. The one major point Annie has over Obi is that he can actually hold the saber with two hands. Other than that, I think Obi-Wan's better. Anakin's elbows don't even bend to 90 degrees, his legs are more limited since he has the vinyl overlay on the back and front of his legs, where Obi only has it at the front, and Obi's head movement isn't limited by long hair like Anakin's is. Now, most of these things are because of Anakin's look constituting certain elements that end up restricting movement, and I totally wouldn't trade the look of the figure for more articulation, because if we do that, we end up with something that looks like this. Ugh. Anakin does have a better waist joint though. Obi's is heavily restricted due to his tunic piece, but overall I have a lot more fun posing Obi-Wan than Anakin. Then we have Anakin's iconic lightsaber with fantastic paint applications and a removable blade, which is this great blue color and isn't too transparent. So I think it's better than Obi-Wan's. And it does peg into a spot on his belt like Obi-Wan's does. And that's going to be just about everything. My personal preference out of these two would probably be Obi-Wan, but I do like both of them. They both have their fair share of issues, but in the end, I think that they make for good Black Series representations of the two best characters in Star Wars. Alright, so that's going to just about wrap it up for my review of Obi-Wan and Anakin from Revenge of the Sith in the Black Series archive line. Yeah, this is probably the most work I've ever put into a review. I've never actually fully scripted out a review before, so let me know what you guys think. I think it turned out pretty good. So yeah, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I would love to hear some feedback. And I really enjoyed making this. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found it helpful. If you like Star Wars Black Series reviews and you're not yet subscribed, I do a lot of that on my channel, so please consider subscribing in order to join the Knights of Mischief. Yeah, as always, I hope you guys found this helpful and enjoyable, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.